I want to just take a moment and thank all of you for coming today. Dean Tikalsky, thank you for your time, and here in just a moment, and this isn't planned, but I'm going to ask him to share his thoughts. One of the things that strikes me about the ground source heat pump technology industry right now is I really think we're at a critical moment in time when great things can happen, especially here in Oklahoma. Think about the opportunity we have here at Oklahoma State. We have an organization that's 27 years old that really helped develop this industry. When you think back to the history of where we were 27 years ago. And some of you in this room are part of that. You've been part of this for 27 years. We have an energy industry that has some great ideas in putting their money where their mouth is. So we have a tremendous partner. We have the Department of Commerce. We have state government that can help us. We have a faculty that, again, going back to the start of IGSHPA, has been doing research that has led the energy. We have an engaged faculty that can address these issues that Mark talked about. Now, I think we need to expand our footprint here at Oklahoma State University to include Spears and perhaps some other schools and faculty. But folks, we have an opportunity to be the catalyst to really reinvent this industry, and I think take it where it can go. We have it here at OSU. We have the leadership, we have the faculty, we have the history, we have the research, we have the partners. I think we're just kind of on that cusp of really turning that around, that bar graph that you showed with the decline in sales. That bar graph ought to be going the other way. And in the years ahead, it ought to almost be a vertical line in terms of growth. We can make that happen here. I think we're fortunate in that we have a dean that I think can see this vision and can help us do that. Certainly I'm committed to it, and IGSHPA's committed to it, Dan is committed to it, we have committed faculty, we're all here. We just need to come together and I think kind of start looking outside the box. We need to have a plan, and I think the board of directors is working on that, and come back and really get re-engaged. And I'm an Episcopalian, so it's going to be short. I'm not going to move around, but we're going to have one hell of a party afterwards. It's probably going to be pretty dull. We're going to have a great party afterwards.
You got a back door,
So,
we'll be there.
anyway, and I know we're kind of at time here, and I didn't ask the dean if he would be willing to say a few words, but I know I can see your mind turning with ideas. Would you come up and just close for us, please?
Sure, thanks. First of all, for these presentations, and Ed, thanks for putting me on the spot here. There's some real opportunities. Just in the last few days, Nessie announced funding from CoBank to help put out to do some research on energy conservation, energy utilization to reduce the amount of power plants we need, this kind of thing. This fits right in that wheelhouse, and I just sent Ed and Bob the links to that application. Those decisions will be made by February, but you start off at $50,000 to fund graduate students to start creating what you define we need. So I think it's important for IGSHPA to define, and the Department of Commerce, to define what it is we need to do, how we can help you. You know, we mentioned earlier that yes, the university doesn't lobby because we're a state agency, and we actually have legislative, we already have full-time people who are legislative assistants who assist in creating what we do. We also, you know, we have the Center for Local Government, which is a perfect opportunity for us to talk to local school districts, you know, everybody who builds a new city hall. All of these kinds of things are entirely possible because we are in all 77 counties. We're in every little town in all 77 counties. We also look at fire stations and all of these kinds of public buildings. Okay, so my father is one of the founders of Wisconsin Public Power. And so this is, you know, it was a utility, one of the very earliest of the cooperative utilities that looked at how do we save power, how do we save energy and deliver it affordably. So the difficulty in building new power plants is many-fold. It has to do with regulatory issues. It has to do with fuel and so forth. Ground source heat pump, when I put Bob in charge of ground source heat pump, and asked him to go meet with the board and see if there's a way in which he could help them, and which we could make this. I think he was I look back at it now as a stroke of genius. You know, it's like I had a few good days in my life. That must have been one of them. But one of those things is to turn around this trend where you see people stop buying these heat exchangers and ground source. This has got to turn around. The amount of energy here is tremendous, and the amount of losses that utilities can sustain in the transmission is not possible. I mean, we can't keep doing it and still meet all the protocols that the governor's asking for and so forth. We just built the new Cooper laboratory. The entire thing is ground source heat pump. It didn't cost me $1 extra. I had bid side by side for, because we don't have circulated cold and hot water out on that part of campus, so we would have had to buy a conventional system. And when they came back, it was easier to do a conventional system, and there were no bidders for the ground source heat pump system. So even though we're the home of IGSHPA, we could get nobody to bid on our own system. We went out 3 times before we finally found some bidders, and then it was the same cost. And so when we think we've instrumented that building, we have thermocouples and thermistors throughout the slabs, underneath the slabs, subsurface, and so forth throughout that building. So we're actually looking at the heat exchange across thick slabs, whether it's worthwhile even to create your own thermal bank inside of a building. You think about every building has an 8-inch slab on it. It might be worthwhile to build a 24-inch thick slab. Concrete is cheap. And so you look at the kinds of things you can do in developing different kinds of systems to hold the energy you need so you have it when you need it. Combined with all the other sources, I'm sure the many different power sources that farmers and other utilities use, there is a way to reduce the amount of energy we create by getting rid of the losses. 65%, 60% being in our BTUs to heat and cool the systems, hot water systems, and so forth. I work extensively with Europe. I work with the Czech Republic. They stopped using coal altogether. They just have natural gas. They're moving entire buildings, municipal buildings, off the grid.
Yep.
So this last year I visited 2 buildings on a campus. They're bigger than this building. They're completely off the grid. They make hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
So they use wind, geothermal heating in the building, and they use wind, and they have actually a cogen plant right actually in the building, which takes care of some of the waste products from the building and paper and all this kind of stuff. And they don't use that power to create electricity. They use that power to separate hydrogen from water. And then they just store hydrogen, and there's no loss in that either. So all you do is you can store hydrogen a long time rather than storing it in a battery, and then they use fuel cells. So I drove around in a fuel cell and a solar car. That was the coolest thing, a solar car. So I'm waiting for the geothermal car. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and it just has the long pipes. But I think the things we can do here, there is the opportunity. We have an entire crew upstairs that just writes grants. So we have professional grant writers. We manage about $20-some million in research a year. We write about $100 million in research grants a year. This is easily something we can be doing for IGSHPA and for the cooperatives and so forth. I mean, it's what we do, and we're happy to do it. Engaging, I think Dan is, and grabbing the students here, the graduate students, and engaging them in advancing what you can do with ground source. Communicating the energy savings and so forth. I did this for another industry, for the cement industry, on how they had to meet their reductions a few years ago, about 10 years ago or so. And so I wrote a variety of things for the regulators to get them to understand how much CO2 savings came from the utilization of a few different technologies. And that made all the difference. The fact is that people read it, understood it, and got it. And I think we can take your documents and put them in English.
Yeah.
You know, so I think one of the things I asked you, I said, give those presentations. I talk at, 4 rubber chicken dinners a day, a week or something like this. I use slides of things that people don't know. A few of these kinds of slides in these kinds of talks to Kiwanis clubs and Rotary clubs and all these kinds of things, and people start to ask questions. Really? 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 Is that really true? How do I find out more? That's what we have to do. We've got to get more people to see and question and understand that this is not brain surgery. The fact is, this can be done. Every community, the fact that we don't have enough drillers is a different problem. But there are plenty of people, smart people, and the capitalization for a driller is not tremendous. It does cost something to capitalize a driller. But once they've got a couple drilling rigs going, within a couple years, they'll have 4 more drilling rigs running. And I think if the utility is mandating this and, basically saying, well, we have 500 homes, everyone's going to have this. All of a sudden, that creates the market sector to say, well, we're going to start a business of drilling. Our job is going to be drilling, and we're going to get certified, and we're going to be what you have to be so that people can install the systems. So I think the capitalization of this is not complicated, but it just will require this kind of grouping. Knowing every house is going to do this, it makes it incredibly attractive for contractors. In California, when they put in post-tension slabs, nobody knew how to post-tension a slab. But when everyone did it, when all 7,000 homes that they put in a subdivision did it, a lot of people learned post-tensioning in a hurry. In Las Vegas, it's 43,000 homes in a single subdivision. Every one is post-tension. It just takes people, the size of the market makes a difference.
Yeah.
If you got to drive your truck and do one house in Enid and then one house in Ponca City and then 2 houses in Tulsa, the gasoline you use to go all around that, you need that geo car again, So I think there's a lot of potential. We are here, part of OSU, the IGSHPA, our outreach and extension units, are here to do exactly what you think we should be doing. That is helping you develop a technology and providing the not just the tech transfer, but also the transfer to the public sector. As the land grant institution, we can do nothing more than to try to educate our citizenry on the best practices of things we can do to help them save energy, money, and make their lives better. That's the mission. It's a very clear mission to us. And so, we really want to do this, work with the Department of Commerce, the Department of Energy, and so forth. We think of ourselves as a lot of oil and gas, but the fact is, it's IGSHPA. It's whatever it takes to get there. And I think you'll see that on campus. We use energy efficient buses. Everything the college builds is ground source heat pump. We're going to probably be building a building within the next year or so. It'll be ground source again. And there's always school construction going on in this state. This should be a no-brainer for school boards. But having someone who doesn't have a vested interest to go there and talk to them about how does this pay off? What does it look like on your, getting the contractors to understand that this is 12 cents a square foot. This is $12 a square foot, the same as forced air system. Because people leave out the numbers. They leave out, oh, well, we forgot to tell you about the circulation fans that you had to put on the roof. We forgot to tell you that every time you install something on a roof, a leak happens. And so it creates less maintenance problems for a building if it has less infrastructure on its roof. So anyway, I'm very happy that everybody could come today. I think this was a great day. Thanks to Bob and Ed for putting it, arranging for us to come together and to hear more about this. But I think there really is an opportunity to communicate this much better to the public sector, to our developers.
And one thing, Paul, if I could add, just to emphasize, IGSHPA is about cooperation, and we're working hard and we're committed to our partners in the industry like the Groundwater Association, GEO. A single organization is not going to solve this problem. All of the associations and organizations associated with ground source heat pump technology are going to have to work together, especially on the policy issues, and we're committed to that cooperation. Bob and Roshan continue to work with the other associations to build that kind of relationship and with industry, and that's going to continue. So, again, thank you. Roshan, did you have anything? Thank you so much for being here, especially speakers. Thank you for making the trip today in the fog and on a Friday before Thanksgiving. We very much appreciate it. So that's all I've got. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thanks.
I like the term geohood. It sounds like it belongs someplace.